everybody, it's Jim and Amadeus here. And Amadeus, breaking news, and that is that CBS Paramount is going to broadcast the women's um, Champions League title game this summer on, I think it's the 3rd of July. I'll get the date exactly for that, but that's cool. I mean, we haven't really seen that here in the States often, so we're going to get to see it.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I have it on DAZN up here.
Mm-hmm.
I won't be able to watch. I wasn't able to watch the Europa League final on TV, so I have to use the streaming services. But yeah, that's great to see that it's on TV.
The irony is that the CBS Paramount is leasing a sublicense from DAZN, so they'll have the DAZN broadcast.
Oh, okay, that's good because sometimes their commentators aren't the best.
They lack they lack some continuity there. So
yeah, actually, there was a few weeks ago I was watching Champions League on CBS, and I decided to switch it to DAZN because I couldn't take the commentary anymore.
Right. Was that from the actual commentary of the game or the pregame, postgame, halftime?
No, the actual commentary of the game. I don't know. I prefer to listen to an English person.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Years ago, when I was with Sports Business Journal, Tim Scanlon, who at that time was the head of talent for ESPN, had made a decision that he was going to hire Tommy Smith and I forget the gentleman's name who Tommy worked with at the time, but they were two Brits. And he was replacing, and this is on MLS games, and he was replacing two of his ESPN broadcasters. And I mean, the two guys who got replaced were screaming mad that they got replaced. And Scanlon just said, basically, people, when they're watching soccer, people tend to want to hear a British voice. They don't take it seriously when it comes from, American. Fair, not fair, doesn't matter. It's just that they like to hear the voice. So, there's
I find that even us Canadians and Americans,
sure,
they use different language in the game.
Yeah. Well, there's, it's like even it's like if you're talking to a Brit, right, or you coming up, you're listening to any of the newscasts, right? It's like coming up after the break, we'll talk. Amadeus will be here with today's sport. There's no S on it, right? So they drop that, so it's sport. It's like what? They're only talking about one thing, or what is it? So there's a lot of those kind of things, And as you say, there's subtleness in the British version of the English language that they drop and we don't. Even to the point of pronouncing Z as Z or Z as Z, right? So it's a whole different vibe. So it sounds better and it sounds more organic when it comes that way.
Yeah, and you learn these new phrases. Like one time I was watching a game, and what's crazy is since this day I've actually heard a few different commentators say it in different games. But one of the lines I hear, guy takes a shot and it doesn't have a lot of power on it. What did they say? Oh, there wasn't enough purchase on it.
Right.
And when I first heard that, I was like, what? But then I kept hearing it. Oh, you just didn't get enough purchase on it. A little more purchase, and then I started. Okay, it's a thing.
I'll buy it. And yeah, by the way, the Saturday, June 3rd is when the championship is taking place. It's at PSV Stadium in the Netherlands.
Yeah, I was going to say PSV Eindhoven, I guess, is hosting it.
Yeah. And so, there you go, boys and girls.
Yeah, the Europa League was in Budapest.
Yeah.
The Champions League final is in Istanbul, and it's just the Conference League final. I'm not 100% sure where that one's being played, but it's another neutral site.
It's another neutral site game. So there you go.
Yeah, they used to do the 2-leg finals where each team would have the home, but yeah, they recently changed. I think this is actually the second year of them doing it on the neutral site, so it was a very recent change, and I think it also went kind of with the wayside when they took away the away goals, the weight for the away goals.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, it makes it interesting for sure. Single leg on a neutral site, no one really has the home advantage, and everybody, everybody's got, and then at least you only got to play the one game now, right? Make it count, because
Right,
sometimes with these 2 legs, it's a lot of strategy.
And I assume a lot of it also is for the fans, right? You get to you get to follow the team, so it's like a holiday. You take a trip and watch your favorite team play in a neutral site. So that has to be and not it's not like FIFA isn't making money off this. So that's gotta happen. Gotta happen.
Oh yeah,
Somebody's got to put up cash.
yeah, definitely. And I just checked. So the Conference League final is going to be at Fortuna Arena in Prague, Czechia.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
The
they
Czech
like to
Republic.
have them in the smaller
Mhm.
countries. If you notice, like so Istanbul, Budapest, and Prague, right? So Czech Republic, Turkey,
Right.
and Hungary. These are all teams that compete in Champions League, but
Mhm.
usually their best clubs don't go very far and end up going far in Europa League, but
Right.
they never do well that far in Champions League, obviously. So it's nice, I guess, for them to get these final games, these final European competitions, and watch some of these bigger clubs, because they do have some very good, like Hungary. Their best team is Ferencváros. They've dominated the league for a while. Turkey has actually had quite a few teams performing well, and Turkey now, Galatasaray is back on top. They just won the title with their 4-1 win the other day, and so you'll see them in champion. They're actually a team that maybe has a chance to go deep, because they do have a long history of playing in Champions League.
Wow.
They've just been bad for a few years.
Mhm.
But yeah, and then you have the Czech Republic. Slavia Praha is always a team that we see in the Champions League group stage. They don't go far, right? But these are always teams
There.
that you see in the Champions League group stage. Is basically my point? These countries that they've picked to host these final games.
Well, and I think too that location is good because they're centrally located, and you can get in and out of the airports and in and out of the cities pretty easily as well. And let's be honest, they're not bad cities to go and visit if you have the chance to visit.
Yeah. Well, they picked big cities, right? They picked probably some of the biggest cities. Like, obviously, if you think of Hungary, Budapest is probably the first one. You think of Prague's the first one in Czech Republic. Istanbul's the first in Turkey, even though it's not the capital. A lot of people tend to think it's the capital, but it's actually Ankara. So,
The other thing too is that the trains run, and that's a big thing in Europe. Is the train? Does the train run?
we see the fiasco going on with the FA Cup final there.
Right. They're on strike, so
they think they have leverage with the trains.
Yeah, they got definite leverage with the trains. But one of the things that I found interesting yesterday, Forbes put out their list, and they always do, of the top sports franchises in the world, and 3 of them happen to be MLS franchises.
Is this like what they're worth, or?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that
LAFC's got to be one of them.
Yeah, they are. They're the top.
I would say Philadelphia Union's probably another.
I can check them for you.
I'm curious, right? Because those have been the 2 biggest teams in in the league, right? LAFC obviously is in the CONCACAF Champions League final, which they lost the first like 2-0 yesterday. And Philadelphia, obviously, we know they played LAFC in the MLS Cup, and they were also went deep into Champions League where they got kicked out by LAFC. Right. So I would expect those are the biggest clubs in America for sure. And the third.
Okay, actually, here they've actually got these were named in the top Forbes top 30 valuable teams. Okay, LAFC, LA Galaxy, Atlanta United.
I was going to say
New York City FC, DC United, Toronto FC, and Austin FC. So
it's interesting how Austin FC is an expansion team.
Mm-hmm.
LAFC is a fairly recent expansion team too. They're only 5 years or something. I think 2020. They came in right around the time Vegas came into the NHL. I think they were it's like 2018 or 2017 year that LAFC came into the league.
Yeah, LAFC is the first team in the MLS valued at $1 billion.
Yeah, I can believe that. They've definitely spent the money. They have one of the best teams on the continent for sure. And it's a team that, the players they've picked are players that care about winning. They don't have a lot of these. They don't have the same mentality as a lot of these other teams where it's like, as long as we squeak into a playoff spot. No, like LAFC, they wanted to win the MLS Cup last year and they wanted to be the best, but they also wanted to win the Supporter Shield, which you don't see a lot. Like they could have easily, taken the last few weeks of the season off, let Philadelphia have it, but they were like, no, we come from real soccer leagues where you play for the league title during the regular season. We want to win the Supporter Shield. Okay, we want to show we're the best regular season team and the best playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
We're the best. So I think that was definitely big. Carlos Vela is obviously a big part of that, but they have a lot of good pieces there.
Yeah, and the other thing too, which is important, is that it's not difficult to attract people to play in Southern California. Yeah. I mean that's not a bad deal, and they play out in Carson, which is where the stadium is, and it's a nice field. I mean, it's a nice place to play.
It's funny because they have a nicer stadium than the Galaxy do, and the Galaxy are probably one of the most richest history teams in the MLS.
Uh-huh.
So I just find that funny because I don't think the Galaxy Stadium is that nice. They play on a tennis court. I'm pretty sure it's like half soccer, half tennis, like complex.
Well, that's not good. No, that would not be good. I'm looking at the thing here. We talked about the different ones, and right in the middle of when you're getting ready to read, something popped up. Yeah, it's the appraisal of they're 1.3 billion. The LA Galaxy is 925.
Okay, so almost.
So there is a discrepancy there, and they both though draw well. So that's something in that regard. So,
which is it's a bit surprising considering performance this season.
Yeah, and Hunter was in there, so that's not good on them. And they have an older stadium, don't they?
It's funny that
the Toronto Stadium
is there. It's funny because they've been so bad for so many years. The fact that they're still one of the most valuable clubs is just insane to me. I guess the Torontonians never stopped supporting this team, but it's Okay, well, I guess we're dealing with some technical difficulties. Jim will be back soon, but yeah, as I was saying with the Toronto FC stadium or with the Toronto FC team, to see the value like that is just wild to me because it shows you the fan support that's up here. Clearly, people are supporting the team. Um, and again, they haven't been good for quite some time. There's a lot of problems that they need to fix there. So
We took a Wi-Fi hit. I'm sorry.
yep, no worries, no worries. Yeah, I was just continuing the question basically about how it's insane because it just goes to show you the fans still support the team even when it's losing, but they've had some big issues for years now. Bringing in an injury-prone Lorenzo Insigne hasn't done anything to the team. They have defensive issues. They have a lot of problems that need to be fixed. But as you say, they're making money, so
Yeah,
just goes to show you.
right, exactly. The other thing that surprised me was because when the old NASL was going strong, Vancouver was a monster. I mean, the Whitecaps not only had a great team, but they had a massive following. And I would have thought that Vancouver would have been, certainly equal to, if not more valuable than Toronto. But I guess not.
Yeah, again, like it's a surprise. Vancouver actually they've been getting better too. They were in the CONCACAF Champions League earlier this year. They got kicked out by LAFC,
Right.
of course. LAFC they kicked two MLS teams out of the Champions League,
Get out of here.
Philadelphia and Vancouver. So I mean, if you're not beating LAFC in the season, how are you gonna beat them in Champions League? So that was an unfortunate draw for them. But yeah, this Vancouver team. They've definitely been improving. They won 6-2 yesterday, so this is a very good team when they play at home.
Mm-hmm.
So I would expect a little more support from
Right.
the BC people.
It's funny. When a couple years ago, when Seattle played them at the park where the Seattle Seahawks play, the place was sold out. And they're I guess that rivalry between Vancouver and Seattle in soccer and in anything is a good rivalry.
Yeah, that's why they need a baseball team over there.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good. Maybe they could get the A's before Vegas does. You never know. So speaking of
tell that to the land deal.
Yeah. We got a quick scoreboard here. Blue Jays top 5 are over the Brewers 3 zip. Phillies 2, Mets 1, bottom 4. Bottom 5, Padres 3, Marlins 1. At 340, the Rockies and the D-backs. 710, the Red Sox and the Reds. Guardians and Twins at 740 also. And at 810, the Angels at the Astros. So that's our baseball scoreboard for today. So if you want to bet on some of those games, it's too late in-game betting. But have you ever done in-game betting in baseball?
Oh yeah, it depends. It all depends on the team.
How does that work?
Well, I mean, you just gotta. Sometimes when there's a team that's a slight favorite,
Mm-hmm.
if you wait until, let's say, they're up to bat first and they get nothing, all of a sudden the odds come down a bit because there's a possibility that the other team's going to score, right?
Sure.
So you can find some value there doing that. There's also times where maybe a team's winning early and their bullpen is garbage, so you take the other team as a big dog, and then you just hope for that gas can to blow up at some point in the last 4 innings.
So basically, it's kind of like, but then again, if you can bet the first 5, right? And so you would bet the first 5, and once the game starts, you can't bet the first 5 anymore, right?
No, I think you still can take it live.
Oh, okay.
Up to a certain point. right? Because if it's tied 0-0 in the first 3 innings,
Yeah.
they'll probably just give you a pick 'em with 2 innings to go if it's going to be that kind of game because they don't
Right.
know. But at that point, right, like anybody could score, but you can find value in it definitely because we know there are tons of starters that tend to unravel the third time through the rotation. So that's something where if two guys are pitching well, it's 0-0, 3 innings in, but you say, all right, this guy's going to start unraveling. The other one will hold up, but this guy, you can kind of see he gave up some hits last inning, and all of a sudden there was 2 guys on base, and the defense got him out of it. But he's raring to blow up. Then maybe in a situation like that, you want to take the first 5, right? And then,
it's funny. We were talking yesterday about the Rays and the Cubs, and I just tuned into the last inning of the game, and the Cubs had the bases loaded. It was a 4-3 game, bases loaded, and nobody out. And I mean, talking about dancing. The relief pitcher who came in struck out 2 guys, and then a pinch hitter comes up and hits a rope down the left field line, and it is screaming toward the corner. And all of a sudden, you see this blue blur out of nowhere, and it's Randy Arozarena. And he puts his glove up, pop in the glove, takes the ball, tosses it to the crowd, spins his cap around, and heads on into the like nothing happened, like it was another day at the ranch. And you're thinking, where did he come from? I mean, he was like, he was shading towards center field, and this guy just saw the ball come off the bat and just ran and made it look like it was just another day at the ranch.
Yeah, he's a fast player. Verde.
Go.
Go.
He's really become quite a defensive, second, outfielder as well. I mean, he's done really well as, stealing some home runs and doing all kinds of fun stuff. But yeah, there's, all of that winning that they've done and you look down and Baltimore's not that far behind.
Yep.
They're still there.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I forget who it was, one of the guys from the MLB network. I think it was Harold Reynolds was still saying, he still thinks the Blue Jays will win that division. So he could be wrong on
the
that.
Rays are what, 40-18 now? Like,
I'll tell you in a second.
That's tough to come back from. Maybe the Orioles can catch them because they're like 34-20, but you're asking the Blue Jays who are like barely 500 right now. I think they're 29-27.
Well, the Blue Jays are 10. Yeah, the Blue Jays are 10 games out.
Yeah. So
okay, Baltimore's 4 out. Baltimore's 4 out. The Yankees are 6, and Boston, where the Rays are playing this weekend, they're 10.5 out. Now that's every team in the AL East is above 500. One team in the Central is above 500.
The Twins.
The Twins. Detroit, Lenny's boys.
And they have the same record as the Blue Jays, I'm pretty sure, too, right?
They do. They're 29-27.
Yeah, okay. So a few days ago, they had the same record, too. Now, obviously, the Blue Jays have climbed a bit because I think the Red Sox are in last now, but it's so close. A few days ago, the Blue Jays were in last place in that division with like a 28-26 record, and Minnesota had the exact same record but first in their division.
Yeah.
And you're telling me the Twins deserve to go to the playoffs over 4 of the AL East teams? Like, come on.
No. Texas and Houston, actually, Texas, Houston, and the Angels are all above 500 in the West. So you've got, and that's, I mean, you're talking some serious. It's 3 games out for Houston behind Texas. And I don't think Jacob deGrom hasn't come back. So The Angels are 6 out, and Seattle's 6.5 out. So the only team at 12-46, Oakland is trailing the bunch in that regard.
What a
So,
surprise! DeGrom took all that money and hasn't been back pitching yet. Gee.
gee, amazing. All right, in the NL, I'm sorry, Atlanta is 10 games over, and Miami and the Mets are tied, 2 games over 500 and 4 games back. Philly is 5 games under the 500 mark, 7.5 games back. The Nationals are representing 9 games behind the first place Atlanta Braves. Milwaukee at 29-26. Pittsburgh at a game back. The Buccos are at 28-27. Cincinnati 26-29, 3 games back. The Cardinals, which we all think will end up winning the division as they always do, 4.5 games back. The Cubbies are also 4.
When they come storming back in August to go on their 20-game win streak.
Right. LA is leading Arizona by a half game.
How about the Diamondbacks?
Yeah, they're playing out of their minds. San Francisco is 5.5 back. San Diego is 8 back, and Colorado Rockies are 10.
San Diego's under 500. This is supposed to be a team that's supposed to challenge the Dodgers every year. They're under 500 more than 50 games through the season.
Well, there's that, and their payroll, is Dodger-esque in the amount of money that they've got, that they've paid out. Now, something happened here in the United States that happened yesterday, and that was that the regional sports network that owes the Padres a ton of money is in bankruptcy court. And so Major League Baseball took over the production of the Padres games. So now the Padres games are on in San Diego on cable, but they're on a different channel in different cable situations. They're not on Bally's now. Bally's has gone bankrupt, and so Major League Baseball took it over. Later today in Houston, 4 other teams' fate will be decided because Bally's has filed for bankruptcy, and if the bankruptcy court says that these 4 teams will be allowed to go back to Major League Baseball, then Major League Baseball will actually have 5 teams that they will be producing the games for if that all happens. So we'll see how that works out. But yeah, the Padres now are, if you're in the San Diego area watching us, they're on all the major cable systems and DirecTV and the streaming services, or you can purchase a season pass for $79 and you get all the games. So it's up to you. Anyway, so that's what's happening on that.
I smell some streaming deals coming.
Oh man, it's coming fast.
Apple TV, you want the Padres whole season? Take them.
They
give you half price on all 162 games. Just take them from us, please.
It's funny because tomorrow is the Apple World Conference, right? And that's the developers conference, and it kicks off with the keynote speech at 3:00 Eastern time. And Tim Cook announced last year when they had the Apple Developers Conference that they had done a deal with Major League Baseball for Friday Night Baseball, and also announced that they did the MLS deal. So, would we be surprised that perhaps he could announce something else tomorrow? Who knows?
The MLB's definitely run into someone.
They got some people that they can talk to.
And the streaming services make sense because if people aren't going to watch the baseball games anyway, at least some of these companies can take them on knowing they're not going to lose money because people aren't buying Apple TV for the San Diego Padres, right? Or the MLS games. They're buying them for all the other shows that are on there. So this is kind of just like an addition. And maybe you get some of those people who are like, oh, maybe I'll catch a baseball game tonight.
It's funny. In the TV business, it's called tonnage. How much programming do you want? Tonnage. And the deal that Apple got with MLS gives them 900 games. That's a lot of games. 900 games. So that's a lot of tonnage. But if you look at Apple TV, I mean, they've got some really good programs that we enjoy, but they don't have the amount of programming, movies and TV shows, etc., as Amazon. So when people say, well, Amazon only wants one game a week, like one NFL game or one whatever a week, that's because they have a ton of stuff that they can show. Apple doesn't. So they'll take the sports and, like you said, if you don't watch it, that's okay, because you may accidentally bump into it one night and say, oh, you know what? I didn't know that was on here. Let's watch that, and again, everything, the Major League Baseball did a game, what they used to call the afternoon games, they used to call them, the businessmen specials. They did a deal with YouTube years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, where YouTube would, produce the game, and they would then air it on YouTube on an afternoon, and it would be worldwide, and they would take questions from the viewers, and there'd be questions from viewers in Australia, there'd be questions from viewers watching the games in down in the Caribbean and all over. So what people don't understand or fail to see is that the streaming services do not black it out anywhere in the world. So if you're watching a baseball game, you're watching it, just as you could be watching it in Toronto. You could also be watching it, in Brisbane. It just depends on the situation. So all of these games are of interest to some people, no matter where they happen to be. And so that, I think that's kind of the difference between streaming and cable and even satellite, because you can get your streaming service and you're not blanked out.
Yeah, and actually, there's been a few times where I was, because I do watch a lot of YouTube just casually, and I was just scrolling through YouTube a year or two ago, and I remember coming across the game because I had never seen it before, and I was like, oh, YouTube's showing MLB games now. And I tuned in. So yeah, exactly. You get those people like me who don't even know it's there and just casually come across it. So, and again, with Apple TV, if you don't like the Padres game, then go watch Ted Lasso.
Right.
There's other options.
There's options. And
that's why it makes more sense than someone like Bally Sports who's relying on these teams, the viewership, and then they don't get it. And they go bankrupt.
I mean, the thing that hurt them is the cable model in the United States allows for bundling. So you can be someone who doesn't watch sports, but you're paying for sports on your cable. Okay, same thing. You could be a sports fan and paying for channels you would never watch. So what happened is ESPN and the regional sports networks got fat, dumb, and happy of it. I mean, ESPN was making at their height $5 per subscriber, and they had 100,000 subscribers. I'm sorry, 100 million subscribers. We're talking about 100 million. So that's basically, they're knocking down 50 million, to dollars a month, which ain't bad. So at the end of the day, as cable has fallen off, down to about 72, 73% is cable, so have the amount of money that Bally's can pay out. And so, that model is broken. And so what's happening is we're seeing, just like in soccer, soccer fans in the United States, I'm sure in Canada the same way, are well ahead of the curve on streaming, because they have been, they've been trained to watch soccer on streaming services because that's where it was. And so now, when people say, well, gosh, now I'm going to baseball on streaming service, most soccer fans are like, hey, fine. We've been doing that for years. Welcome to the party, boys and girls. And even through IPTV, which isn't something necessarily legal here in the United States, but, people have used that too. And one of the big selling points of IPTV has been that you can get sports from all around the world, and you can watch, if you want to watch Sky, the Sky broadcast, you can get it because you can get it through IPTV. So streaming has gotten itself all around without any problem whatsoever. Hey, any thoughts on tonight's game one of the NBA final?
Well, it's definitely
somebody's going to win. Yes.
That last series went so long that I mentioned the Nuggets to a few people during the game 7 of the Heat and Celtics, and they were like, "Oh my God, I forgot the Nuggets were still there."
They're in there.
There's another series after this, but
right.
I don't know. It's tough for me because the Nuggets have been off almost 2 weeks.
Right.
They last played last Monday, and we're now Thursday. Like
right.
that's a week and 3 days, 4 days. And apparently Jokic has just been chilling in his pool the whole time. So, relax. Relax.
They get here, then they get here.
But they have the advantage of the altitude, right? So it's definitely right now. You get the Nuggets are about a 9-point favorite.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah, and to me, it seems a little ridiculous for a finals game. But then you have to take into account the fact that obviously they're more rested. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's going to help or hurt them necessarily, but especially with the amount of time they've had. But they're more rested than the Heat, who had to play a 7-game series and is coming back a few days later. Now they have to go into the altitude of Denver too, where it's hard to breathe, and they got to play there. So. Definitely. Denver's a deep team. They have bench depth for sure. So that's a positive for them. But they don't play defense the way the Heat play.
No.
So it's one of the. I almost think the game goes over tonight. I've seen a few stats that lead me to believe this game is probably going to go over. Mm-hmm. And I know the Heat. They're on a big under trend right now, but a lot of that was actually Boston. Right. The Celtics had this stat: they finished the last series 10-0 to the under over the last 3 seasons when facing elimination in the playoffs. So that's something where now I think maybe that trend changes a bit because it's not the Celtics, the Heat are playing. I see this game going over, and also. I think again, I use StatFox, but a lot of the stats I've seen tend to agree with the over on this game.
Well, the other thing with Miami is they have a lot of jump shooter, and in that altitude, as crazy as it sounds, you lose your legs because you're exhausted, and So you see guys coming up short on the shots. They're hitting the rim. They're just not getting it there. And so, that's one of those things where, as we all know, the final 5 minutes of the game is where it's all decided anyway. When you come into a playoff game like this and you're down to the crunch time and you're in Denver and you're sucking oxygen, you got stuff to worry about. So if I'm Miami, I got to get out early and I got to hold it. Yeah, and that's something Miami has not done well.
Yeah, well, that's a great point you make with the legs, because also along with that point, if you're saying the Heat are more of a jump shooting team versus the Nuggets, who obviously have Jokic,
right?
They drive the basket and things like that. If you're not driving the basket as much, if you're the Heat, then we look at sometimes when a new quarterback goes into Mile High and play the Broncos, and they've never played in Denver before. We're all talking about how the altitude's going to affect the way they throw. If you're throwing 60 yards down the field, right, you need to adjust because the ball is going to travel further in that thin air. Well, here's a point for you. If Miami's primarily, jump shooting, doesn't the altitude affect somewhat? I know it's a much smaller scale because of the range that they're shooting from, but the ball is still traveling through the air. And at some point, it's going to travel lighter through the air.
Right.
So
Sure.
there has to be some kind of adjustment for sure.
Right. Well, that's where your shooting practices and such come in, where you get to that. But, if you look at the game, the last two games with Boston, Butler was driving the basket a lot. But that, for him, it's getting to the foul line, because he wants to get to the foul line. And that worked out well for him in the Boston series. But we'll have to see. I mean, it's an odd couple, to be sure, Denver and Miami. Two contrasting styles, and you go from the altitude of Denver to the humidity and mug of Miami. So we'll see how that plays out. So
yeah,
it'll definitely be interesting, that's for sure. It'll be fun to watch, and of course the Stanley Cup Finals don't get underway until Saturday, so we do not have to trouble ourselves with that. So we'll go. Let me do one more quick look at the scoreboard before we get out of here. We're now bottom six. Blue Jays still leading the Brew Crew 3-0. The Mets and the Phillies gotten a little closer. Oops, update on top of the six now. 3-2 Mets on the Phillies. You got the Padres 7, the Marlins 1. And by the way, we're in the top of the sixth inning, and the Marlins have one run, but they don't have a hit. So top six, Padres have a no-hitter going for them. Barnes is pitching for the Padres. So we'll see how that works out. Rockies and the D-backs, 340. And then the games, a 7-10, 2 games. You got the Reds and Red Sox in Boston, and the Guardians and Twins in Minnesota, and then the Astros and the Angels out west with the 8-10 game. So that's what our scoreboard tells us today. Okay, my friends, it's been fun, and Amadeus and I will see you tomorrow on Friday, which is a busy, busy Friday. There'll be all kinds of crazy stuff going on here. So we will see you tomorrow. Have a lovely day, and be well.